Part 169. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1686. Surging magical power swirls in the alchemy vessel. Gretel stood in front of the alchemy vessel with his hands behind his back and his legs spread apart, staring at the dragon egg in front of him without blinking. On the gray-white eggshell, there was a shocking crack that was more than half a foot long. On the crack, a thick layer of transparent brilliance was applied, trying its best to seal in the breath inside the dragon egg. That's power, that's magic, that's what the young dragons need to survive and grow. In Greet's understanding, it may be the cells that maintain the young dragon. Every time it divides, the extraordinary points remain in the transition state and will not fall. Or, not so much that it falls. After all, if the young dragon breaks its shell, the guarantee must be level 3. Without this level, you can't break the eggshell at all. Even if you are lucky enough to break the eggshell, you won't be able to survive the moment of receiving the inheritance. As for the alchemy vessel used in the cloning technique, can the energy it provides help the young dragon to hold on? Or, under the regeneration technique, the cell division speed is greatly accelerated and the energy dissipation speed is slowed down. In this case, the young dragon can hold on until it breaks its shell, and the level will not drop too much. Gretel stared at the alchemy vessel without saying a word. On the left and right, Anivia and Necromancer Trond were guarding one end, ready to make adjustments at any time. In Gretel's eyes, it's extra unique. One is alive, the other is dead. The cycle of life and death depend on each other. Necromancy spells also contain the essence of life, life spells also require facing death. If you don't understand this, whether you are a natural priest or a necromancer, you may not be able to take the final step. Anivia and her partner, the necromancer Trond, had no time to sigh. Especially necromancer Trond, staring at the flow of patterns on the alchemy vessels, his palms became sweaty. This alchemy warehouse is just a trial version. Trial pack. Something might go wrong at any time and the magic lines need to be adjusted on the spot. Taking a step back, the alchemy chamber of clone technique increases the growth rate by about 18 to 20 times. Generally speaking, it takes 16 to 18 years to grow from a piece of flesh to an adult body. If the cloned object is an 8th or 9th level archmage, then it will take an additional year or two to debug and stack a powerless body to the specified level. So, how long does it take for a half-hatched dragon egg to hatch out of its shell? Hey, how long will it take for our child to hatch? Carolina waited for a long time, a day and a half. The life breath of the young dragon in the dragon egg has stabilized, and it seems to be growing. However, it feels like there is still a long time before hatching. Gretel couldn't answer this question. There are fewer gem dragons than metal dragons, and they are more precious. He has never touched a few of them until now. Dragon Egg's mother asked him, and he had to ask back. How long does it take for a crystal dragon's egg to hatch? About 640 days, Carolina said softly. The size of the crystal dragon is relatively large among the dragons, but it is not the largest. The incubation period of dragon eggs is a little shorter than that of silver dragons. Greet nodded and glanced quickly at his disciple. Anivia exchanged colors with the necromancer Trond opposite, took a step forward, and whispered. This dragon egg has already gone through half of its incubation period, which is 320 days. Based on the growth speed bonus of the cloning technique, the dragon egg can hatch safely in about 18 to 20 days. It's going to take so long. The crystal dragon couple said in unison. 18 to 20 days, which means they have to wait for more than half a month to see the results. More than half a month. I was anxious to wait for a day or two, let alone half a month. Yes, according to our previous experience, it is about 18 to 20 days. Anivia's eyes were shining brightly, looking up at the other party with the most sincere and comforting eyes. During normal experiments, they take turns waiting and sleeping. There are test subjects here, so even if one or two die, it won't be a big problem. But this is not an experiment. It's practical. It was the teacher who worked so hard to get them the practical opportunity. Moreover, Dragon Egg's parents were standing next to the alchemy vessels, staring at them with burning eyes. Anivia could only work hard and try to show that I am dedicated, I am focused, and I value your children. It's so pitiful that she stares at the alchemy device 16 hours a day and still has 8 hours of necessary sleep. Not only does she feel like she has dark circles under her eyes are full of bloodshot eyes. In this way, she can open her eyes wide and express her emotions with her eyes. Anivia herself feels that she is already very powerful. It is said that when a dragon egg hatches to about 3/4, even if the eggshell is broken, it can still grow safely under the care of its parents. Therefore, the child will be safe after 10 days at the latest. The crystal dragon couple looked at each other again and took a long breath. To ensure safety after 10 days, compared to ensuring safety after 20 days, the safety factor is more than twice as high. 10 days later, even if the alchemy device is broken, rotten, or shattered, as long as the dragon egg is still safe, they can just take it back and hatch it themselves. I hope this alchemy vessel can last for 10 days, and not be broken within 10 days, at least. If it is broken, it can be moved to the next alchemy vessel without causing damage to the dragon egg. By the way, can you let them bring up another alchemy warehouse? Greed turned his gaze to his disciples, paused, and then moved to the necromancer Trond on his right, asking for their opinions. Anivia smiled and said nothing. Trond braced himself, faced the oppressive eyes of the 3 giant dragons, raised his right hand, and made a gesture of rubbing his thumb and index finger. Ah, I'm so awesome. How dare you ask for money when facing the dragon clan? With the energy to withstand the pressure this time, my mental strength and mental toughness will definitely increase greatly. Maybe there is hope for the legend. Necromancer Trond tried his best to raise his head and chest in anticipation of impacting the legend, and looked at the crystal dragon. Gretel stood by and watched him talk plausibly and bargain with the crystal dragon. There is no way, this alchemy warehouse is not made by us. They are all customized by the alchemy department next door. Each one must be customized, and every version must be customized. The basic fee is 10,000 gold coins. That's just the basic fee. These need to be modified individually. Each one needs to be customized additionally, and the customization fee will be doubled. Internal price? It is indeed settled with contribution points, but these contribution points can originally be exchanged for various high-end materials and high-end equipment, but now they are all spent on research. This is not my money alone. This is the entire school's money. It's just me, our school, and the nature order next door. He pointed at Anivia. We have also agreed on the proportion of funding. Suddenly we lost an alchemy warehouse. I can't fill this hole. Greed stood aside calmly, watching them bargain. Obviously, Crystal Dragon is willing to pay, it's just a question of how much. Seeing that Necromancer Trond was sweating more and more on his forehead, his calves were shaking more and more violently, and his voice was getting louder, he couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth slightly. It wasn't until Crystal Dragon Broad turned over and over again that he kept saying, but this is too much, we also paid for it, the alchemy warehouse can be shipped back without being damaged, and there was no more new ideas, so he coughed lightly. Just chime in and join the conversation. Let's see, the child's safety is more important. You should contact the following first and transport an alchemy warehouse for backup. The funds will be deducted from the total budget package given to us by the Dragon Clan. After a pause, he turned to the Crystal Dragon and said with a smile. You are willing to pay separately for this alchemy warehouse, right? Yeah. The Crystal Dragon couple nodded vigorously. Gretel glanced at Necromancer Trond with a smile. The alchemy warehouse is brought up once. If it has not been used, I will give you 10 Mage Tower research points. If it has been used, I will compensate you for the lost alchemy warehouse according to the evaluation price in the tower. Is that okay? Of course you can. Trond nodded. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay, Master Nordmark said it himself. As a subordinate's subordinate, there's no reason why it's not possible. More important, he has fallen into the eyes of Mage Nordmark. He can directly ask this big boss questions and ask for advice. Even if I have only been working on the project for more than 10 days, it would be good to get a few words of advice from him. It's a pity that he didn't have time to ask for advice from many sources. The new alchemy warehouse had just been delivered. Before Trond checked it, he felt a tightness in his chest. He almost squatted down and huddled up, holding his chest. For a moment, dragons roared overhead, and giant dragons came across the sky one after another. How's it going? How's the situation? How is the child? Broad, we're late, can we still make it? Elder Batista was the first to rush. The battle was tragic this time, with many wounded people, and a few of them were seriously injured. As the leader of the healers, he really couldn't take a step away. After finally tidying up the wounded, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. His life was suspended and his limbs were attached. Hearing that Crystal Dragon Broad was in trouble, he rushed over quickly and slowly. What if it's still too late? What if? What if the child's parents tried their best to stall for time and the child is still alive? Can he help? He brought up a strong wind pressure and almost landed directly on the top of the dragon's nest. He focused his gaze on the alchemy vessel in the center and suddenly made a sudden stop. The child is still alive? Still alive and well? What is this? A ball of strong wind carried him to an emergency, slowing down his speed and slowly falling on the top of the dragon's nest. Behind the elder, a group of silver dragons, golden dragons, emerald dragons, dragons of various races who are good at healing arts all focused their attention on Gretel. Was it you who did it again? How long has it been since I held a meeting for you? What did you do again? It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1687. Elder Batista took a deep breath. Elder Batista took another deep breath. Elder Batista's eyes shone. The technology that Gretel developed is not important, but it is not too important. Anyway, the Dragon Clan has always paid close attention to their own eggs, and those who will break the eggs deserve to be cut off. Speaking of important, that's so important. As the reserve technology of the Dragon Clan, it will be of great use no matter when. Who knows which reckless, unlucky, or framed dragon, especially the high-level legendary dragon, had his last clutch of eggs, or which egg was predicted to be the dragon's savior, happened to be broken. It is so important to have technology as the final backing. Even so, Elder Batista did not speak directly and asked Gretel, can this technology be given to the Dragon Clan? No rush, no rush, the little guy has always been kind-hearted, and he will not be stingy about handing over any technology that is useful to the Dragon Clan. Even if there is no suitable consideration for the moment, if you talk to him carefully, he will still be willing to give it. The Dragon Clan has invested so much in him during this period. The entire Mage Tower has a steady stream of supplies, all supplied by the Dragon Clan. Wait first, be patient, wait until the baby dragon hatches out of the dragon egg. Behind Elder Batista, heads were scurrying upwards one after another, trying to move upwards, trying to see the current situation clearly. New technology. New magic. The technology to save a broken dragon egg from death. They don't specialize in this field, but why don't they just take a look? Take a look, maybe you can learn something and be on the safe side at critical moments. Silver Dragon Andre and Cynthia were waiting in the queue, but they were calm. After a long sleep, they have absorbed the alien energy they swallowed previously. Although they have not advanced, their own strength has also increased a lot. Recently, they have returned to Sky Dragon City and played 2 rounds. Their ears are full of Gretel's great achievements, which is a surprise to them. They themselves don't want to have any more children. With 3 children, they have overfulfilled their tasks. As for children, it's hard to say whether the children Cyrilla gave birth to were viviparous or oviparous. In the history of the Dragon Clan, both situations have occurred. Even if an egg is laid, it is not the same as a dragon egg. As for her brother and sister's children, if something really goes wrong, can Cyrilla stand by and watch? No rush, no hurry. When this wave is over, you can ask directly for any technology you want. Greet, this kid, has always been generous in medical technology. Dragons have a different concept of time than humans. If a human being stays up all night, he or she will be so sleepy that he wants to die. If he stays up all night for 2, he will be so sleepy that he falls over. Even if you are a high-level mage above level 17, after a long time, you have to open the mage hut and get in to get some sleep. And this group of giant dragons surrounded the dragon lair of the crystal dragon Jared and his wife. For 10 days and 10 nights, no one slept a wink. For 10 days, they watched the light flowing in the alchemy vessel and felt the breath of the young dragon in the dragon egg, becoming stronger and stronger day by day. At the end of 10 days, the young dragon will come back alive. Even if there is another problem with the alchemy utensils in the future. No need for 9-level spells, no legendary spells, and no need for those extremely advanced and unusual spells that can only be used at the 3rd level of legend. Just the cloning technique. Just a cloning technique. Even if it is a variant of the cloning technique that has been modified to the point where the creator no longer recognizes it, it is only an 8th level spell. And this determines that the level of this spell will not be too high. The Dragon Clan can send anyone at will, no need for legendary 2nd level, no legendary 1st level, just a mature dragon, or even a stronger adult dragon will be used. Take a step back and say, if you don't know how to use it, don't you know how to maintain it? 10 days to regain life, and the second 10 days to complete the final incubation period. Anivia and Necromancer Trond kept an urgent watch. The moment they heard the sound of banging and smashing inside the dragon egg, they stopped their spells and opened the alchemy warehouse. Do you want to remove the dragon egg? Gretel asked at the right time. The crystal dragon couple looked at each other and shook their heads at the same time. The sky is big and the earth is big, the baby dragon hatches normally and is the largest. At this time, move the dragon egg and lift it out of the alchemy warehouse. If something goes wrong, the shell cannot be broken successfully and the normal awakening cannot be achieved. All the hard work I put in before was all wasted. Gretel stopped talking and flicked his fingers, applying a force field to the inner wall of the alchemy warehouse. When the young dragon breaks its shell, the movement is still quite loud. If the alchemy warehouse is damaged by a headbutt or a flick of the tail, the crystal dragon couple will look bad if they pay compensation. If they can lose less, they will lose less. A little. At least, you can't make your home look like a piece of porcelain, leaving a glass vessel there for the young dragon to bump into. Taking a step back, even if a complete alchemy warehouse is taken back for study, the information that can be read is more than the fragments that are torn apart, right? Crystal Dragon Jared glanced sideways at Gretel. Gratitude and appreciation flashed in his eyes. As soon as he thought about it, the nests around the alchemy warehouse turned into thick clouds silently. Even if the outer wall is hit by the young dragon and hits the dragon's nest at a very high speed, these clouds can give it the greatest degree of cushioning, ensuring that not a single crack will break out. After completing these protective tasks, Greed began to check his equipment, put out and debugged the equipment used to monitor the awakening of the young dragon. Fortunately, he had taken care of the young dragon's awakening for the silver dragon Brol and his wife, so he had all the set of equipment with him. Otherwise, we have to send someone to pick it up now, and we don't know if it will be delivered in time. This device attracted the attention of a large number of dragons. For a moment, lines of mental power were flying around, sweeping over the mental power monitoring device, the mobile tower spirit, and the oxygen bottles and oxygen pipes. In the spiritual connection, the dragons were talking a lot. Is this okay? Do you only need these things to take care of the baby dragon's awakening? You should also need spells, right? Spells are the most important thing. That's right, I heard Elder Batista say that. Mage Nordmark, the last time he took care of the awakening of the young dragon, he brought these devices with him. Really? Then remember to inform me next time, I will also go and take a look. Why bother? Isn't this the place? After reading this, maybe your questions will be solved. Oh oh oh. Oh 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 oh. It's starting. It's starting. The little dragon is starting to break out of its shell. Look, look. The legendary dragons were excited. The hatching of a young dragon from its shell is an extremely private matter. Except for the parents who will guard it, usually even the child's uncles and aunts will be kicked out directly. Here at Crystal Dragon, Jared, Gretel, and the others would not have been allowed to come over if they had not caused such a big disaster before and had to invite outsiders to save the situation. And since humans are here, even the necromancers are here, no matter how many lice it is, there are no worries about debts, and they don't care if a group of dragons come here. Click, 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 click. Knocked, smashed, and bumped again, and soon, a larger hole opened in the strong dragon egg shell from the crack opened by the young dragon's father. It only took half the time it would take for an ordinary young dragon to break out of its shell, and a white, wet, huddled little dragon appeared in front of the elders. Without waiting for the elders to observe, Gretel instantly flew out of the mage's hand. Ang. Ong. Ong. Be gentle, Mage Nordmark, be gentle. Gretel pretended not to hear. My hand was already gentle enough. If I were gentler, the oral epithelial cells would not be removed. Oral epithelial cells are already the most convenient way to extract chromosomes. I can't get it this way. I will catch the little dragon later and take a small piece of skin under the scales. You will definitely beat me to death. Fortunately, the young dragon has just broken out of its shell, and its wisdom and combat power are relatively limited. After calling a few times, he couldn't find the suspect who attacked him, so he lowered his head and ate the eggshells. A soft wind lifted up the little dragon and the eggshell, and gently rolled it out of the alchemy vessel. Greet raced against time to weigh the little dragon, measure its body length, wingspan, and measure every other data he could think of. At the same time, the magic shines brightly, and the light screens unfold one by one. Heartbeat, blood pressure, oxygen saturation, cranial blood flow, brain waves. The mental power index is 145. That's pretty good. Coming out of the cloning alchemy warehouse, you can actually have such high mental power. It's very possible for you to awaken on your own. The legendary dragons forming a circle moved away unconsciously to make room for his operations. Only Anivia took a step forward and stood openly beside the teacher. After a pause, Necromancer Tron took a step forward, then took another step forward, and let out a small tentative cough. Hum. 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 Ah, you. Gretel turned his head, finally turned his attention, and immediately waved to him. Come and take a look. Although you may not be able to get an order, there may not be a dragon clan willing to hire you, it's always right to take a look. Come on, you see, the key to grasping the opportunity to intervene is the young dragon's blood oxygen saturation. Blood oxygen saturation is the key. Brain waves and cranial blood flow are reference. There is also a very important point. When giving oxygen, try not to attract its attention or trigger its resistance. Speak these words to Anivia, the necromancer, and the dragons who are watching. Anivia listened with unusual concentration, her eyes darting back and forth between the display screen and the young dragon, wishing she could remember every detail in her mind. Necromancer Trond was half grateful, half anxious. While recording desperately, he could not help but occasionally glance at the giant dragons beside him. "Sir, this is how you tell them these secrets? Tell them all. What will happen if no one comes to invite you in the future? Without a trump card, the Mage Tower loses an income and an advantage over the Dragon Clan. Why are you so generous? Ah, by the way, keep an eye on the oxygen bottles and oxygen tubes. Don't let him chew them." Click. 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 After the young dragon gnawed the eggshell, he threw himself on the alchemy warehouse and opened his mouth. Crystal Dragon Couple. It's over, this alchemy warehouse is still not saved, it still has to be compensated. Thanks to Ed for the 500 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1688. Can the crystal dragon eat the alchemy warehouse? It won't get stuck, right? Will it scratch your throat? Anivia subconsciously moved a step closer to Gretel. She has always taken care of those monsters, as well as pseudo-dragons, sub-dragons, and dragon beasts. Regarding the situation of real dragons, she had only read some information, but had no intuitive feeling. An adult dragon eats gold and silver, magic ores, and magic weapons, and of course it can chew them like crackers. But this is a whelp, a whelp. The hatchling has just hatched. Although the base material for making the alchemy warehouse is glass, a large amount of various types of metal mineral powders and magic materials are mixed inside the glass, creating a large number of magic pathways. Can the young dragon bite it in one bite? Click, click, click. When she carefully inquired, the young dragon had already chewed out a hole as big as a hug in the alchemy warehouse. While biting, he inhaled the glass violently. After one gulp, the glass shattered into 7 or 8 pieces, but not even the sesame-sized pieces could be seen on the ground. They were all swallowed by the young dragon. Don't worry, it's no problem. Gretel's mental power was locked on the munching baby dragon, and his eyes moved from one light screen to the other. Crystal dragons are a type of gem dragon. They can naturally digest various minerals and magic crystals. The alchemy warehouse is also an extract of minerals. Even young dragons can eat it without any problem. What needs attention is the blood flow of the young dragon. Is there blood? Anivia fell silent, repeating the knowledge points taught by the teacher in her heart, trying to understand them. Even if the dragon's digestive ability is extremely powerful, the digestion process still requires blood to pour energy into the stomach. The more blood the stomach gets, the less blood supply the brain can get at the same time. In the process of accepting inheritance, whether the brain can hold on is closely related to the energy of the brain itself. However, the more the young dragon eats before accepting the inheritance, the more energy is converted, and the greater the probability of success in accepting the inheritance. Therefore, it is very important to ensure the success rate and prevent the young dragon from eating. She pondered silently, and there was already movement on the light screen. The young dragon's heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing rate all began to rise, and his brain waves also became intense. The blood oxygen saturation was maintained with great effort. For 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, the young dragon no longer munched, but raised its head and turned anxiously in circles. The heart rate reached the limit, and the blood oxygen saturation suddenly paused, and then began to fall. 98. 97. 95. Gretel waved his hand, and the remaining half of the fragments of the alchemy warehouse were swept up by a whirlwind, circled far away, and disappeared into the palm of his hand. Then, the local anesthesia was accurately applied, with a light layer extending from the top of the head to the tip of the nose, and then into the inside of the nasal cavity. Then, the vine in Greet's hand snaked, fell on the young dragon's horn, coiled around, and penetrated into the nasal cavity. Oxygen supply is on. Look, at this time, we need to start manual intervention to support the young dragon. Gretel quickly gave instructions to the disciple, carefully adjusted the oxygen flow rate, and stared at the various indicators on the light screen. The scope of the local anesthesia spell must be accurate, and the movements must be gentle, so as not to disturb the young dragon and cause a stress reaction. Generally speaking, the first wave of oxygen supply will increase the blood oxygen saturation for a period of time, and then it depends on the brain the radio wave. He carefully instructs his disciples. Behind them, the giant dragons had moved from their position surrounding the young dragon to a semicircle, staring at Gretel and the light curtain that unfolded in front of Gretel. Heart rate, blood pressure, blood oxygen saturation, mental energy index, these indicators have all been displayed in the simplest way by Greet, so that even a layman can understand them at a glance. It is relatively difficult to display brain blood supply and brain waves. However, look at the width of the brain blood supply lines and see if the waves are surging, see if the brain wave lines are smooth or chaotic. These 2 points can still be achieved, or in other words, laymen can judge based on intuition. In this case, can we do it ourselves in the future? The gentle voice of inquiry echoed in the spiritual connections of the dragons. Elder Batista frowned slightly and refuted sternly. Don't even think about it. It's easy to watch others do things, but it's hard to do it yourself. Look at Master Nordmark, there are so many tricks in what he can do easily. If Gretel could hear the elder's words, he would definitely give him 10,086 likes. Of course, just the matter of oxygen supply and how to adjust the oxygen flow can fill at least one chapter in the field of anesthesia. Not to mention the linkage relationship between heart rate, blood pressure, and blood oxygen. It is difficult for novice medical students to see problems from complicated electrocardiograms. As for paying attention to cranial blood flow, always be on guard against burst blood vessels. That's even harder. Even Gretel basically mastered the trick of reading blood flow after linking mental exploration and ultrasound interpretation for a long time. Those dragons who have just started, or have not yet started, want to master the timing of casting spells and the selection of casting points. What are they thinking? Of course, the spiritual connection between the dragons does not include Gretel. Therefore, he was fully focused at this time, and all his attention was on the young dragon. The blood oxygen rebounded, and returned to a value close to its peak, floating up and down between 99 and 98. The baby dragon's circles became more and more anxious, and it began to dig at the ground with its claws, and its wings opened and closed, causing strong winds. And Yunsu. This caused a great obstacle to Gretel's work. He had to carefully adjust the position of the vines to prevent the young dragon's wings from scratching the oxygen tube, causing the oxygen tube to curl, bend, break, etc. After waiting for about a quarter of an hour, the baby dragon stopped spinning in circles, but changed its posture and squatted on the ground in a manner similar to that of a hen. The wings were folded and tightly covered the body, and each dragon scale was trembling slightly. Greet's face also became serious. The oxygen flow has been turned on to the maximum, and the soothing technique is ready to go. There is no medicine, surgery cannot be performed, and methods such as lumbar puncture and decompression cannot be used. Soothing surgery is his last resort. Here we go. Starting to accept the inheritance. In the spiritual connection of the dragon clan, A group of giant dragons were talking a lot. Elder Batista said with a solemn expression. No, accepting the inheritance is almost over, or in other words, it is about to reach the most dangerous moment. At this moment, he chose to speak directly instead of speaking in the spiritual connection, also to give Gretel a reminder. The higher the parents are, the more inheritance their children will receive. Children of the legendary dragon clan need to undergo more tests. If they survive, the starting point will be higher than that of ordinary children, but it will also be more difficult to survive. Gretel pricked up his ears and listened clearly to the elder's words, and his heart beat more and more violently. The young dragons he had taken care of before were only adult dragons, not legendary dragons. If according to what the elder said, the young dragons of the legendary dragon clan will accept a small part of the legendary inheritance, then this pressure. Can the young dragon's brain be able to handle it? Is there any way to divert it? The heartbeat is pounding and the blood is rushing. The blood of the dragon clan, and the blood condensed by magic power in the blood vessels, rush back and forth together, bringing the strongest energy into the brain, supporting the brain cells to accept the impact of inheritance. Blood oxygen 97, 96, 95, 94. Greed thought silently in his heart. When the blood oxygen dropped to 93, he finally threw out a soothing spell. The effect was immediate. The young dragon's heartbeat and breathing slowed down, and his expression became less anxious and painful. However, the soothing technique can only control the moment, but cannot control everything. Gretel fired 2 consecutive soothing spells, one to increase intelligence Fox's cunning, and one to concentration. I saw that the young dragon's condition improved and then worsened, and improved again, but there was still no sign of awakening. The little guy's spirit is like a crumbling ice, moving forward, forward at the top of the cliff. 1 step forward, 2 steps forward, 10 steps forward. It kept shaking and making rattling sounds, and there were even tiny pieces of ice cracking around the edges. Yet it stretches on and on. Towards the front, towards the other side, maybe towards the thick fog, maybe towards the abyss. Maybe if you persist for 1 more second, you will be able to achieve awakening. It is also possible that no matter how hard you persist, you will end up broken and falling. Soothing techniques are becoming less and less effective. The young dragon was acting increasingly agitated. It kept turning, its screams became louder and louder, and its claws dug into the ground faster and faster. A moment later, thin threads of blood oozed from its eyes, ears, and nostrils. Have you reached your limit? It looks like it's almost reaching its limit. The mental power index is 165. It is already the strongest mental power I have ever seen before awakening. Gretel stared at the light screen, and Elder Batista also stared at the light screen. When the young dragon awakens, although he does not watch every time, he always reads the spellcasting records. Generally, young dragons can successfully awaken when their spiritual power index rises to over 150, and some rise to over 155. Those who awaken above 160 are very strong children and are the hope for the future of the dragon clan. But this baby dragon is 165 years old and still hasn't awakened. It's so difficult, the legendary dragon, it's really hard to have a child. If it doesn't work, just give up. Anyway, if it weren't for the previous alchemy warehouse, this child would have died long ago. Gretel gritted his teeth. He has guarded the awakening of so many young dragons, some have succeeded, and some have failed. Every time, he tries his best, but does not insist that everything must be successful. But this time, he didn't want to give up. No matter what, I don't want to give up. Maybe it's because this is the first legendary child he has ever awakened to protect, or maybe it's the first time he's used the alchemy warehouse. Let me try again. Maybe there is another way. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1689. All the medical knowledge before the time travel, and all the spells he had learned, seen, and read since the time travel, were swirling in Gretel's mind. Is there any other way to help the hatchling? Is there any way? Greet thought desperately. Mechanized mind? Let the subject's mind become clear and organized, eliminating all emotional influences and only calculating indifferently? Before the young dragon awakens, it has not grown up enough to have such a thing as emotions, right? Would it be counterproductive to throw a mechanized mind into a young dragon that only has instincts for the time being? Bear toughness? Temporarily increase physical fitness? It may be useful. After all, as your physical fitness improves, your heart's pulsating ability, blood vessel elasticity, and oxygen uptake will increase accordingly. Let's try one first. It worked a bit. The baby dragon's condition has eased a bit, but it still hasn't fundamentally improved. Think again, there must be other ways. Battle chant? Let the subject be strong-willed and work hard, so that he can ignore some pain and survive some trials and tortures. But, the young dragon who has not yet awakened, does he have such a thing as will? Do not care. Even animals can be in various states, such as charging forward and running away with their tail between their legs. It always pays to be more determined. A blazing light fell on the young dragon. In an instant, the anxious young dragon calmed down. With 4 paws lying on the ground, both wings spread out, the wingtips trembling slightly, the back arched, making a gesture of about to pounce. Do you feel better? Do you feel better? The brainwave curve is less chaotic and seems to be a little smoother. Gretel tried every method he could think of one by one. Spells, divine spells, whatever he thought would be useful, he would use them on the young dragon one by one. Some have good uses, and some have little to no use. But all in all, the situation of the young dragon has been up and down, sometimes good and sometimes bad, but it has always been strong. The narrow ice bridge trembled, and kept reaching into the void. There is no sign of deterioration all the way, no turning back at all, and no sign of successful awakening. How long will it take? The third time the comforting technique was used, Gretel was a little unsure and couldn't help but look back at Elder Batista. The time on the heart monitor showed that an hour and a half had passed since he cast the spell, far exceeding the time for the young dragons to awaken. No matter how much I dawdle in the past, the hour is over. Some contestants can delay it until 1 hour and 10 minutes, but this baby dragon, it's an hour and a half. Have no idea. Elder Batista shook his head with a deep expression. He was not from the prophecy department, and it was too late to learn the prophecy technique now. It was a pity that he did not bring the time dragon Saints up there to watch the young dragons awakening together. Then again, the time dragon may not be interested in the awakening of a mere baby dragon. Even if he is, he may not come to see it, and even if he comes to see it, he may not tell what he saw. Maybe, the message coming out of his mouth is still the same. Interesting. The river of time. There are many branches, which branch you jump into in the end depends on your own efforts. This is the joy of observing the river of time. You are having fun, but we are helpless. Elder Batista thought, and answered Gretel in a deep voice. Generally speaking, it will not take more than 2 hours. The higher the level of the dragon child, the stronger the inheritance and the longer it will take. However, there is also a possibility that the young dragon lacks experience and cannot interrupt the inheritance in time. What? Still lacking experience? Judging from what you said, it seems that any young dragon would have experience. If it really had experience, it would be impossible for it to crawl out of the egg. Greet really wanted to blurt it out like this. I endured it for a while, and then endured it for a while. Finally, I endured it, and then asked, "So, is there any way to urge him to end the inheritance in time?" Generally speaking, it is the parents of the young dragons who oppress the young dragons with their cold eyes of "wake up quickly or I will kill you," as well as the power and momentum of the dragon. A young dragon with some intelligence will often enter a state of excitement and shout out his name, as for a young dragon with no intelligence. When it comes to the end of accepting the inheritance, it still has no intelligence and cannot respond to the gaze of its parents. This kind of young dragon probably won't be able to awaken, so just give up. But Gretel turned his head, and the crystal dragon couple, the male dragon Jared, and the female dragon Carolina were already lying on the ground one by one, staring at the young dragon coldly. That look made him a little frightened. If he hadn't received the favor of Ms. Silvermoon and could be immune to almost all psychic magic, he might have collapsed under the dragon's power. But the young dragon seemed unaware of it. He, or it, lay there silently, his body trembling slightly, his dragon scales opening or closing, as if he had been enduring pain. The method of parents' gaze seems to have failed. How about giving him a mental retardation spell? Gretel angrily sent a message to the elder through the secondary mind connection. As soon as the mental retardation spell is removed, the intelligence instantly falls to the bottom, and the young dragon has no wisdom to accept the inheritance. It can only let the information be naturally imprinted in the memory. After this stage is passed and all the information that should be accepted is downloaded, and then the mental retardation spell is released, maybe, it will be possible to successfully awaken? Don't, Elder Batista was startled and shouted quickly. The mental retardation technique can only destroy the child. It is impossible to help him survive the inheritance. Without the guidance and sorting of spiritual power, these inheritances will instantly burn the young dragon's brain. All right. This road is blocked. Greet shrugged and could only think of another way. He first tentatively threw a detect thought at the young dragon, and sure enough, a bunch of messy information came back. Some are like shapes, some are like smells, some are like sounds, and some have no idea what they are at all. So it's like hard drive burning. If there are directories, partitions, and summaries, it will be easy to burn them efficiently. If there is nothing but a messy mess, the effect will be. What if someone helps? Is there a high-level wisdom that can help guide and sort it out? Is there such a spell? For example, psychic connection, advanced care technique, command technique. Gretel gritted his teeth and threw out 3 spells in one breath. The mind connection combines his and the young dragon's thoughts, allowing them to communicate through thinking. This is very unusual. Normally, a mind-to-heart connection requires the consent of both parties. But in the current situation, maybe the young dragon has not yet gained complete wisdom, or maybe the young dragon has sensed his kindness. In short, the spiritual connection has successfully connected the 2 parties. As soon as the psychic connection was completed, an endless torrent of information, much more than the previous thought detection, immediately rushed into Gretel's mind. Fortunately, Gretel has experienced this situation more than once in the process of advancement. At this time, he tried to relax his mind and transfer all these messy information to the biological computer of the meditation core for storage. Immediately afterwards, the advanced care technique followed, and he immediately felt the restlessness, pain, and confusion of the young dragon. It wants to do something, but it cannot do it. It wants to express something, but it cannot express it. I feel uncomfortable, nervous, and feel like I'm going to explode. Keep up the command. This spell can command the subject to do a certain thing according to the caster's intention, or prohibit him from doing a certain thing. Gretel, however, did not convey the past instructions of awakening quickly. This is too difficult and may be completely incomprehensible to the young dragon. He gathered his mental strength and used his strongest belief to repeatedly command. Say your name. Say your name. Say your name. The hatchling awakens and is marked by announcing its true name. Greed secretly understood that if he successfully remembered and reported his real name, it would be equivalent to triggering a signal that would force the end of the stage of signal transmission. Quickly remember your name. Think of it, say it. Quick. The young dragon's anxious and dazed eyes became fixed. He no longer dug the ground or struggled. He raised his head and stared at the cold stars in the sky, his eyes deepening little by little. In Greet's eyes, there was an expression of reminiscing and thinking deeply. This was searching for his true name in a large amount of information fragments, right? Right? It must be. Suddenly, the young dragon's powerful hind legs kicked the ground and stood up. Flap your wings, hold your chest and head high, and stretch your neck high toward the sky. My real name is Torsten Clark Fate Meyer Jenkins. The firm, high-pitched, sharp voice echoed in the crystal dragon's nest, reverberating against the wall of light where the energy was condensed. The sound lasted for more than a minute before it stopped. The next moment, Crystal Dragon Carolina rushed over quickly, stretched out her tongue, and licked her child hard. Ang. Ong. Ong. Carolina, stop. No, shut up. You've licked the baby and turned it upside down. The Crystal Dragon couple, the Silver Dragon Brole, and the legendary dragons who specially came to watch each breathed a sigh of relief. Gretel quickly dispersed the vines, lifted the local anesthesia, stuffed the oxygen bottles and other facilities back into the space equipment, and retreated outside the circle with Anivia and Necromancer Trond. Only halfway back, Elder Batista grabbed him. I actually did it for you. Come on, tell me, what are your tips for this spellcasting process? I'll trade it with you for magic materials. With a wave of his hand, a large piece of ore half a man's height and the size of a single bed fell to the ground, instantly attracting the attention of a large number of dragons. Gretel turned pale and fell to the ground, pretending to faint from exhaustion. Is it too late for me to fall asleep now? Is it too late for me not to say anything now? In my mind, in my memory, it seems like there are a lot more things, there are a lot more things. Could it be that I got the Dragon Clan inheritance? Thanks to Etienne.wu for the 100 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1690. Gretel's pretense of fainting didn't last long. Strictly speaking, as soon as he lay on the ground, he was swept up by a gentle breeze, and then 7 or 8 detection spells of different types and strengths brushed against him with his front and rear feet. Just kidding, not to mention the people who flocked to watch the crystal dragon hatchlings grow and break out of their shells and watch the hatchlings awaken. 1/3 of them were in the treatment field. Even his student, Anivia, was already a level 10 nature priest. A level 10 nature priest with dual skills in medical spells and modern medical skills. As long as Gretel is not cut in two on the spot, he can pull him up in most situations. So Greet soon couldn't pretend anymore and was picked up honestly. He didn't even look at the ore on the ground. His face was white, his brows were furrowed, and he was rubbing his temples hard. After rubbing it for a while, he answered in a low voice. Let me take a rest, I was so tired just now, I feel like I can't hold on anymore. With this kind of attitude, Elder Batista couldn't continue to ask questions, so he had no choice but to let go. Greet slumped down in the little apprentice's vine net bag, panting for a long time, and stood up with support. How is the child, is he okay? It's okay. Everything is fine. Thank you so much, Master Nordmark. Crystal Dragon Jared quickly came over to express his gratitude. Gretel smiled and waved his hand, wiped his sweat again, and leaned to the side tremblingly. It's okay. Jared hesitated to speak. Greet took a few more breaths and walked in front of the young dragon one step at a time. He took another sample, threw it into the microscope for testing, and re-examined the body. After completing one round of procedures, he gently nodded to Elder Batista. It would be best if the child successfully awakens. Elder, I am very tired today, so I will go back and rest first. Regarding the casting process of this assisted awakening, I will write it out and send it to you after I have rested. The sweat was not dry on his face, and he was swaying, looking like he could hardly stand. Elder Batista couldn't say anything, so he could only tell him to go and rest quickly. Andre and Cynthia looked around and immediately stood up. Okay, let's take him to rest. Come on, you two, come with me and I'll give you a ride along the way. Anivia quickly collected the ore on the ground for her teacher, and she and Necromancer Trond quickened their pace and walked behind Cynthia. The two legendary silver dragons whipped up a breeze and took Gretel and the others down, flying towards Dragon Island. Gretel sat on his father-in-law's back, closed his eyes and meditated. Even when his father-in-law praised him as really good job and very helpful, he just hummed a few times. It wasn't until he returned to the Mage Tower and rolled into the room that he hid and sent a message to the teacher. Teacher, I feel as if I have accepted the inheritance of the Dragon Clan. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Greet counted the seconds until the 5th second, when Talling suddenly sent a message. Your Excellency, Lord of Thunder, applies for teleportation permission. The teacher is here. Gretel's eyes lit up and he agreed without thinking. The next moment, a lightning flashed in front of him, and the gentle lightning opened on both sides and turned into an arch. The Lord of Thunder took one step forward, and first looked at Gretel up and down, making sure that there was nothing wrong with him, and that he had not grown dragon scales or horns. Then he asked, "What's going on? Tell me in detail." Greet tried hard to keep his voice steady and recounted the process of guiding the young dragon to awaken from beginning to end. After finishing speaking in one breath, his face suddenly fell down and wrinkled into a ball. I really didn't mean it. If these memories can be forgotten on their own, I can just forget them. I'm afraid that the Dragon Clan won't let them go. And this cannot be hidden. They all see which spells I release. If I go back and do the experiment again according to this method, I guess they will also receive the information. The Lord of Thunder listened quietly, tapping his fingertips on the table from time to time, and blue-white electric sparks lingered faintly. After hearing the end, looking at the young disciple's sad face, he shook his head. Which inheritance did you get? Don't worry, think about it slowly. There is a limit to what the young dragon can receive. I am a dragon, and I will not fight you for those 3rd level, 5th level, and 6th level knowledge. This child is the treasure of the Dragon Clan. It's a treasure that the Dragon Clan can't wait to hold in their hands. The Lord of Thunder feels that if a catastrophe really comes, the Dragon Clan will probably sacrifice a few legendary dragons to save him. Even I am not treated so well. As for myself and Princess Norrell, as legendary level combatants, I guess you have to protect yourselves, and everyone can lend a hand when you have time. That's the problem. Greet's bitter melon face wrinkled even more, as if it had changed from an 18-fold Jingjiang crab roe soup dumpling to a green peony and chrysanthemum blooming on the double 9th festival. Hundreds of petals are stacked on top of each other, bending towards the center of the circle, with many times more wrinkles and layers than a big bun. Green in the white, yellow in the green, I feel that at the next moment, black will drip out of the yellow. Some of them are what baby dragons should eat, how much they should eat, what they can and cannot eat, and when they should get together and go to sleep. When Greet flew down on his father-in-law's back, he had already meditated as much as possible and roughly divided the received information into areas. I guess the Dragon Clan won't cause trouble for me with these things. There are also some crystal dragons' natural spells, such as charm humans, colorful jet, and control the wind. These are not big problems. But what, you said it? The Lord of Thunder rubbed his fingers slightly, and lightning danced on his fingertips. You keep mumbling and complaining for a long time, but you don't mention the key information. Are you asking for a beating? But the message at the end is so scary. It's a legend. It's a legend. Legendary information, whether it is spells, martial arts, or anything else, is extremely precious. Especially the legendary power that can be passed down through blood. Once it is leaked, it would not be surprising to start a war. A legend is a legend, what's the big deal? The Lord of Thunder looked contemptuous. Your teacher is a legend, a third-level legend. What's so scary about legend-related information? Do you still lack this? It's not a legendary spell, let alone a legendary martial skill. Gretel continued to cry sadly. It is the knowledge of the legendary dragon's advancement, in other words, it is the knowledge that tells the dragon how to adjust its body, adapt to its power, and advance to the legend, and how to control the body and mind at the moment of hitting the legend so as not to get lost. Experience. Greet's face turned a little pale as he recalled the feeling at that moment. This message, among all the messages he received, was also the one with the latest transmission time. He had to doubt that it was the reward for the young dragon who persisted to the end and had the greatest potential. Let children have a glimpse into the realm of legends in advance and understand the mysteries of legends. Even if it is only for a moment, it is just a fragment of a glimpse of light, which points out the way forward for the young dragon that has just broken out of its shell. Look. Look. If you work hard to grow up and train yourself, you will become so strong. Look. Look. There is such beautiful scenery in the distance, waiting for you. Good boy, work hard, you can be this strong. The Thunder Lord's eyes finally became serious. The knowledge of legendary advancement, even in the Magic Council, is passed down from master to disciple, orally and heart to heart, without writing down. For example, in the entire energy evocation system, there can be 5 or 6 large and small organizations, and the only organizations with legendary advanced knowledge are Thunderhorn and Power Box Court. If you are not accepted by these 2 organizations from the beginning, if you want to advance to legend, you basically have to explore on your own, or hope that you are good enough to be accepted as a disciple by some legendary boss. Each school has its own advancement path, each organization has its own path to adjust little by little and climb step by step. Which spells should be learned first, which spells should be learned later, which ones must be mastered, which spells should be built in the world of meditation, and how to elementalize the body. These mysteries are the most fundamental resources for every school and every organization to gather members. For the Thunderhorn, for the Evocation Department, and even for the entire Magic Council, having more of this kind of mystery is good. Moreover, this is my personal experience. Feel it for yourself. No words, no images, no descriptions can match the real feeling. This, let me think about it. The Lord of Thunder was also embarrassed for a moment. It is definitely impossible to hand over this knowledge and delete it, and it is absolutely impossible to let it go. However, if you keep it completely hidden, you can keep it hidden for as long as you can. There is no airtight wall in the world, and there are too many ways to discover secrets. Moreover, according to Gretel's description, as long as the dragon clan uses his method to take care of the awakening of the young dragon, he will always know about it. What do you think? The Lord of Thunder asked Gretel with a sullen face while thinking. Gretel scratched the hair on his head. I want to talk to Cyrilla first, and then let Cyrilla ask her parents for advice. The universal method, call the parents. If Andre and Cynthia think there is no problem, then the matter will end with them. If anything happens, the boss will take care of it. If the father-in-law and mother-in-law feel that they need to confess to the Dragon Clan, the first person they go to will definitely be Elder Batista. With this legendary third-level elder in the healing field coming forward, no one in the entire Dragon Clan would refuse to give him face, right? The Lord of Thunder curled up his lips, wanting to laugh and complain. Sure enough, I still look for parents, teachers here, and father-in-law there. When will this child stand up and mediate in his own name and with his own power? Okay, you can summarize the knowledge you have gained and leave this matter to me. He stood up and said. Go and study your own. The more important your results are, the easier it will be for me and the dragon clan to negotiate. Greet jumped up happily and rushed out of the study. As for this study being his own, I don't care at all. A novel by a group friend. We've traveled through Tokyo, who still needs a love simulation. Introduction. Don't fall in love, you will become unhappy. In the previous life, after his roommate fell in love, his life was worse than that of a dog. He borrowed money from his brothers every day. After graduation, he got engaged and was defrauded of 300,000 in gift money by his ex. After witnessing all this, Asaba Kazuma decided to replan his life after traveling to Tokyo. Set a small goal first to achieve financial freedom. However, the love simulator broke his heart and tried to make him fall in love with a beautiful paper girl and regain his longing for love. Real love? Even dogs don't talk about it? Wouldn't it be more interesting to worship the electronic moon elder, fall in cyber love, and use the rewards for completing the game to become a talented Tokyo handsome guy? Open up the world for me and let my talent defeat capital. No, I am the capital. System error, sample update started, world simulation in progress. Just as Asaba Kazuma was preparing to reach the pinnacle of life in the real world, she discovered that something was wrong. Wait, what did we say? It was just a game? This book is also known as Paperman's Repayment, and equal parts of Kazuma, my girlfriend ran out of the game. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1691. The Lord of Thunder looked at his disciples back from a distance and sighed helplessly. Alas, as a teacher, I have endless worries day by day. We need to give him a book list, arrange special training for him, answer his questions, help him mediate, and bargain with a group of dragons. Of course, he could let little Greet negotiate with the dragon clan on his own, which would be considered as training for the child. However, even if he thought with his knees, the Lord of Thunder could still think of the way little Gretel talked about it. Reliance on small things, acting like a spoiled brat. Or, just spread your hands. I have obtained the inheritance. It is impossible to forget everything. I can promise not to leak it to anyone. How much compensation do you want me to give you? Anyway, in the end it was deducted from the total investment amount given to him by the dragon clan. By the way, helping the crystal dragon couple save dragon eggs and take care of the awakening of the young dragon should also be rewarded. Let's deduct this from the reward first. Never make a counter offer. This kind of negotiation method may be able to obtain satisfactory results, but it is unlikely to gain much experience. Or maybe Gretel has always been firmly on his own path, and he doesn't need any extra things in the first place. All external objects are not important to this child. The goodwill and favors he casually spread along the way have accumulated into the most abundant resources, supporting him to rise step by step. The Lord of Thunder smiled and shook his head. Of course, leaving this negotiation to him will yield better results. The value of legendary level information can be more accurately assessed in the hands of a legendary third level person like him. Moreover, when he, a legendary third level person, came forward to negotiate, the other party was even more embarrassed to raise the price. It's as if no one cares about this knowledge. Their department has a direct path to the third level of legend. Little Gretel, just study and practice with peace of mind. Everything else is left to the teacher. The Lord of Thunder waited patiently for Gretel to finish sorting out the information and hand it over to him for him to go and negotiate. And this wait is 3 days. 3 whole days. Greed was sitting on the top floor of the Mage Tower, closest to the tower spirit center, with his eyes slightly closed and holding a transmission line in his hand. The wire is connected to a gold box inlaid with jewels. The other end of the gold box is connected to the tower spirit center of the Mage Tower. An instrument designed by a legendary mage and manufactured by a high-level alchemist, it continuously transmits the scenes in the meditation world to the Mage Tower, and then burns them into the chip from the Mage Tower. Greet sat upright with her eyes closed, sweat dripping down her forehead. Most of the information he got from the inheritance has been burned into it, except for the last paragraph. Last paragraph. About legends, about ways to advance into legends. It's about adjusting your body and mind, trying your best to leap towards the other side, and the feelings during that leap. Transmission. Fail. Transmission. Failed again. Transmission. Failure again. Gretel has been at this level for 2 full days. The day before, it took 12 hours, the day after, so far, it has been 18 hours. For 18 consecutive hours, I didn't eat or drink, didn't speak, and was immersed in a state similar to deep meditation. Over and over again, I kept realizing the leap to the legend. Feel it once, transmit it again, and fail again, feel it again, transmit it again, and fail again. And he seemed to be ignorant, not discouraged at all, but wholeheartedly comprehending the glimmers in his memory. Cyrilla moved nervously next to him, this way and that, this way and that. Still holding his breath, standing on tiptoes, trying not to make any noise to disturb him, he kept thinking in his mind. Ouch. Gretel hasn't eaten for so long. I haven't drank water for so long. Greet said that if you don't eat or drink for nearly a day, your body will have problems. You will be hungry. You will have hypoglycemia. He hasn't been to the toilet yet. There will be problems with your kidneys. Uremia or something like that. By the way, he has been sitting still for such a long time. What, deep vein thrombosis or something? If the embolus breaks off and flows into the lungs, it will be a pulmonary embolism in minutes. The only thing that can comfort the Silver Dragon girl at this time is 1 point of knowledge. Gretel said that this length of time is measured for ordinary people. Ordinary people have a certain chance of developing problems if they don't eat or drink for such a long time. Extraordinary people, especially high-level extraordinary people, can relax a little and don't have to worry too much about their health. I hope he can finish it quickly, as soon as possible, as much as possible. Even though she was thinking about it like this, Cyrilla also knew how difficult it was for Gretel to do this. That's a legend. It's an experience of ascending to a legend. Gretel is only level 17 now. If it weren't for the fact that this memory is just a fragment, even the Lord of Thunder would not allow him to comprehend and record this experience. Hey, what is the experience of ascending to the legend? Is there anything in my inheritance? Cyrilla took a step back, then another step, retreated to the corner and huddled up. Close your eyes and start searching in your memory. The mountains and rivers of Dragon Island, the distribution of Dragon Nest, the specialties of various places. Hey. This is not it. The spellcasting experience of control weather, the spellcasting experience of anti-gravity, tisk tisk tisk, inheritance memory is indeed a treasure. As long as you work hard to dig out it, you can have everything. The experience of advancing to a mature dragon, the physical adjustments during the advancement process, oh no. She turned around and left in a panic. Following Gretel's journey to the New World, the Kingdom of Eagles, the Kingdom of the Sun, the Elf Island, and her return to Dragon Island, she has accumulated quite a lot. At this time, efforts to dig out the inheritance touched the memory of the advanced adult dragon, and he was about to start advancing almost immediately. To advance, you must unfold your true body, you must sleep, and you must take in a lot of food. No matter what you do, you can't do it in great study. She quietly closed the door and left. On the top of the mage tower, there is a dragon's nest that is exclusive to her. It is tall enough and spacious enough. Even if she becomes a mature dragon, she will still not feel cramped. Jumping from the portal of the mage tower to her own territory, there was a half-built dragon's nest, which was several times wider than the one on the top of the mage tower. The only problem is that there are no facilities inside, and only half of the magic defense is deployed. In addition, she hasn't had time to collect family members yet, which means that there will be no one to take care of her. How about going to my parents' dragon lair to advance? Sarala tilted her head and looked into the distance. Mom and Dad's dragon nest has a large number of relatives who are willing to serve her. If they act coquettishly, they might even provide her with food. A lot of magical beasts, a lot of magic minerals, a lot of all kinds of delicious food. Someone even made a special trip to deliver it to her. Delivered in waves. Sarara took a step forward and then retracted. She is engaged to greet. Once you are engaged, you are no longer the child of your parents. Although it is not impossible to go back and eat mom and dad's food now, it is best to save it for the critical moment. Tailing, she raised her voice. I'm going to sleep and advance. Seal my dragon's nest. Increase the defense level. Increase the concentration of elements. When Gretel comes out, tell him. By the way, also, arrange for someone to bring me food. All kinds of food. Various high-level monsters. Various magic minerals. I want anything I can eat. After saying that, he dived into the dragon's lair and closed the door. With a wave of his hand, gold coins poured down like a waterfall and landed on the ground of the dragon's nest. Sarala thought for a while, then waved her hand again, and the waterfall of gold coins rolled back and returned to her space equipment. When she advanced, she slept until she was drowsy, but she must not chew these gold coins. It would be a pity to chew it. After doing all this, Sarara returned to her original form and lay down peacefully. When I advance to the prime of life dragon, starting from level 17 to 18, I will catch up with you again. Sarala closed her eyes, and layers of mist soon began to appear around her, wrapping and covering her, providing her with an environment suitable for advancement. The tower spirit controls the elemental pool of the mage tower, rumbling and mobilizing with all its strength to provide Sarala's dragon lair with abundant wind elements, water elements, ice elements, etc. In the dragon's nest, a slender, clean and elegant silver dragon is embarking on her advanced journey. Downstairs in the dragon's nest, Gretel closed his eyes and was lost in meditation, feeling like he had turned into a dragon. In other words, his spirit seemed to have returned to the time when he first learned the art of transformation and transformed into a silver dragon. At that time, the whole nature seemed to be whispering in his ears, guiding him, teaching him, telling him what it felt like to become a silver dragon. Silver dragon. Silver dragon. I am a silver dragon. I am a dragon. I am flying high into the sky, flying towards the clouds. My heart is beating excitedly, my blood is rushing, and every corner of my body is undergoing intense changes. Energy condenses, condenses, condenses again. Rush to the sky, rush to the strong wind, rush to the sun, rush to the stars. If you can get through, you are a legend, if you can't get through, you are dead. This is too reckless. Gretel muttered silently. Immediately, his whole body was shaken and he woke up. Oops. This time it failed again. Introducing memories during meditation is similar to dreaming, especially lucid dreaming. You need to be immersed at all times and stay calm at all times to master the knowledge of this memory fragment to the maximum extent. A moment of distraction or a moment of muttering is equivalent to immediately remembering, oh, I'm dreaming, and the dream is over in an instant. Come again. While you're still in the meditative state, try it again. This time, in a daze, he turned into a dragon again. The cold mist and the cold light of stars and moon covered him layer by layer. He flapped his wings and struggled upward. Relax your mind. Spread your mental energy. Let yourself integrate into this world to the greatest extent, and let your body resonate with the most basic components of the world to the greatest extent. Only when the resonance reaches the limit can we break through that boundary and advance to legend. Go. Grass, go, ignore. Failed again. I saw a piece of news today, after the college entrance examination student in Hubei whose application was changed, after calling the police, the Suizhou police issued a certificate to the Hubei Provincial Admissions Office that his application had been changed back to the original. Therefore, if your volunteer is tampered with, I hope you will never encounter this situation. Call the police immediately, there is still a possibility of rescue. Hopefully useless, knowledge has increased again. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Jialan 2020. Chapter 1692. When the Lord of Thunder got the list compiled by Gretel, the time had already reached the 5th day. On the first day, I burned relatively detailed and elementary content. On the second day, I burned 12 hours. On the third day, I burned 18 hours. On the fourth day, I burned 16 hours. I was stuck with the fragments of that legendary experience. It took Gretel a full 46 hours to burn this memory fragment into the center of the Mage Tower. Then, he fell down and fell asleep. After barely sleeping for 8 hours, I was reminded by the alarm clock in the tower. I got up desperately and took the chip to find the teacher. Lord of Thunder. He pretended not to see the huge dark circles on Greet's face and his extremely depressed look. Holding the chip, he read the information inside attentively, and looked at Gretel seriously. Tell all this information to the Dragon Clan? So detailed. I told you before, but just give me a directory list. Let's be more detailed. Gretel looked at the teacher without hesitation. I will do my best to provide detailed information. If the transaction is completed in one go, it doesn't matter whether the Dragon Clan is angry or wants a high price. At least they can make a comprehensive evaluation. This will save them from thinking that I'm hiding something and then come to the back office dash. If you really come here to blame, it's not the teacher who's in trouble. Going to negotiate compensation or trade with the Dragon Clan is equivalent to the teacher guaranteeing it with his own reputation. The Lord of Thunder stared at this young disciple, for a moment, and smiled. You can't do everything you want, but you only want to be clear in your heart. Gretel, this kid, behaves openly and openly. Very good. By acting this way, at least the hesitation and fear in the mind will be much less at the stage of ascending to the legend. He twisted the chip with his fingertips and smiled. How about it? How do you feel about experiencing the legendary experience in advance? It feels like it's just too difficult to control. Greet reported to the teacher with a grimace. Perhaps it is the nature of the dragons, or perhaps this memory is just used to motivate the young dragon. The content in the memory is very simple, in other words, it is very reckless. It was completely relying on the physical body to get through. Haha, this at least reminds you to pay attention to your control of your body. You must control every inch, every minute, or in your words, every cell in your body. The Lord of Thunder smiled more and more relaxedly, stood up and walked past Gretel. When passing by him, he raised his hand and patted his young apprentice on the shoulder. In his opinion, those fleeting memories were just the simplest and most basic fragments. Compared to his experience and insights on entering the legend, compared to the information collected by Thunderhorn, it is only a drop in the ocean. Of course, the advantage is that it is all personal experience, which is much more detailed and clear than simply summarizing it in words. Little Greet is currently at this level, and if he has more experience in various aspects, and knows more about the methods of different schools, different races, and different professions to achieve legend, it will be of great benefit to him to achieve legend himself. The Lord of Thunder teleported to Sky Dragon City in a very good mood to negotiate with the Dragon Clan. Well, he wants to add some more to this information, even if it's a big one, and then put it into Thunderhorn's inheritance library. Anyone who is qualified to become a legend or has the potential to become a legend can apply to read it. All the resources contributed by the juniors who apply to be read will belong to Greet. Ah, the teacher finally left, thank God he didn't give me any homework. Greet yawned, staggered, and teleported back to sleep. Sarala has advanced to sleep, and for a long time in the future, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, maybe more, he will be alone again. As for the project he is currently working on, there is no need to rush for the time being and he can take his time. Now that everything is finished and completed, he has also advanced. He has to wait for Sarala to end his sleep before he can travel with him. Yawn, I want to take a nap first, I'm so sleepy. Greet fell into the bathtub, feeling the warm water covering his body, and soon fell into a sweet dream. After taking a bath, the invisible servant will pick him up, dry him, put him back on the bed, and wrap him in a bathrobe. On this point, Tallink can still be trusted. Gretel was fast asleep, unaware of the passage of time, and of course, unaware of how meticulously and properly the invisible servants served him. He fell into a deep sleep, using this most natural and gentle way to replenish his mental strength and replenish his mind that was consumed by watching the legendary experience. I haven't slept for 1 night, I haven't woken up for 10 nights, I have been spinning for 3 whole days, now I have to have a good sleep no matter what, sleep for 12 hours. 16 hours. 20 hours. Sleep until you wake up naturally. If you don't wake up, you won't be able to get up. As soon as Greet fell asleep, everyone in the Mage Tower was waiting, and it was a bit chaotic. Who knows, Gretel went to Sky Dragon City to take care of the baby dragon's growth and hatching, and has not returned to the Mage Tower for 20 days. After returning, I only selected the most urgent processes and approved a few, and then I was busy burning data. The rest of the catalog, which spanned more than 10 pages, was all pressed down for him to read slowly. Then he went into seclusion for 5 days. 5 days. The entire Mage Tower was eagerly waiting for the old man to come out of seclusion. After finally coming out, he closed the door again and fell back into bed. The entire floor is closed, no visits, no interruption. 25 days, 26 days, 27 days will not approve the process. The entire Mage Tower, all project applications, all material withdrawals, all cross-department research collaborations, the need to divide accounts and remuneration, several departments are arguing and waiting for Gretel's decision. Everything is stuck. Boss. How long are you going to sleep for? It's a pity that no one dares to disturb, no one dares to hammer on the door, and even hammering is useless. Gretel has the highest authority in the Mage Tower. He gave an order and the tower spirit completely blocked the outside information and directly set up a silent barrier to let Gretel sleep as well as possible. I slept for 2 days and 2 nights. In the meantime, I got up and went to the toilet, stuffed something in my stomach, fell back on the bed and continued to sleep. Until he finally woke up, tidied himself up, and prepared to fulfill his obligations as the master of the Mage Tower and the project leader. As soon as I opened the door, I heard a pop sound at the door, as if something had been triggered. Then there was a flash of light, and Senior Sister Philby appeared in high spirits and stood at the door. Greet. Come out. Come on, let me show you my latest achievement. Brush, 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 several figures appeared in succession. The heads of the transformation, necromancy, conjuration, and protection schools appeared one by one. However, Archmage Philby had already dragged Gretel and strode out without any explanation, while waving to the school leaders. "I'll take Gretel for half an hour. Just half an hour. When the time is up, I'll send it back to you immediately." A group of magicians dared to get out of the way in anger but without speaking. Greet was staggered by the senior sister, and followed her through the teleportation array to the mage tower where the accelerator was located. Before he could ask further questions, Archmage Philby had already turned on the accelerator with a boom. This time, Greet saw her reaching out to block the accelerator jet. As the high-energy particles hit her, the palms, fingertips, and entire upper arms became crystal clear and sparkling. "Greet, look. I can now restrain the power of high-energy particles very well. As long as I build a spell structure, build several specific spell structures in the chromosomes, these structures can naturally attract energy. No, senior sister, the way your arms look like this makes me a little scared. I'm afraid that your whole body has turned into a radiation body." Greet subconsciously threw out a cloud chamber and radiation detection composite magic. Not yet worried, he took out a Geiger counter and approached the senior sister. Okay, there were no abnormal signs in the cloud chamber, the magic didn't give a warning, and the Geiger counter didn't sound either. It wasn't the kind of ominous sound that made a sharp beep sound and then stopped completely. Ring. Archmage Philby rolled her eyes at him angrily, raised her hand slightly, and a breeze flowed slightly, pushing Gretel to stand against the wall. Really, little Greet is her junior brother. How could she not worry about his junior brother's safety? How could you not protect your junior brother? If this accelerator nozzle would emit a large amount of strong radiation and endanger the junior brother's health, how could she let the junior brother come over? Don't believe her at all. Look, I have now built 5 different spell structures in the chromosomes, which have increased the speed of absorbing and restraining energy 5 times. Archmage Philby proudly showed off to her junior brother. "This is all thanks to you. Even if it is just a little bit of legendary insight, it has made my legendary journey a big step forward. It turns out that this is how the Dragon Clan improves physical strength. It is very helpful to me." Soon, Greet learned from the senior sister how the teacher negotiated with the Dragon Clan and bought this record. Archmage Philby happily took out a chip and patted it in Greet's hand. "I won't pay you for the right to watch this legendary record. Come on, here are the 5 spell structures I found, their positions among the chromosome points, and the way to gather mental power and structure those points." Method. Gretel took a breath of air. There is a saying that the knowledge of senior sister is much more systematic and precious than the sporadic legendary insights he has here. Although this knowledge was researched in the Mage Tower under his name and using his resources, the research was conducted by senior sister. If senior sister wants to keep it secret, it is not impossible to do it. However, when the senior sister patted the chip in his palm, she did not hesitate. "But senior sister, I think it's possible that I won't be able to bathe in the high energy particle flow with my body like you. I really can't be as powerful as you." "Hey. If I give it to you, I'll give it to you. If there are any new results later, I'll continue to give it to you. Little Gretel, hurry up and become a legend. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right?" Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1693. Gretel would not do such things as using his body to shower high-energy particle streams and absorb energy for the time being. Don't want to do it, don't dare to do it, can't do it. His mental control is far from being so delicate. So Gretel could only find another way, or in other words, walk on the upright road for himself. Do research, use research, and use the feedback brought by promoting world development to promote your own progress. At least so far, the feedback given to him by the will of the world is quite satisfactory. How is the analysis of dragon chromosomes going? He went from floor to floor. The first is the Plastic Energy Department, which is responsible for analyzing the chromosomes of the dragon family, especially those chromosomes selected for transforming dragon-veined creatures. Every point must be broken into countless pieces. Based on the position of each segment in the gel, determine whether the 15th point of the third chromosome of the silver dragon Vasca and the 15th point of the third chromosome of the red dragon Angzi are the same thing. I think it's very possible that they are actually the same, Gretel muttered to himself. The knowledge gained in previous lives, chromosomes, is a stacked code, and every evolution of organisms is recorded in it. From single-celled animals to coelenterates, from coelenterates to fish, from fish to amphibians to reptiles, and then branched into two branches, one road leads to birds and the other leads to mammals. The genes of humans and cows are 80% similar, and the genes of humans and chimpanzees are 99% similar. It is said that the chromosomes of humans and bananas are 60% similar. So, maybe two different dragon clans, such as silver dragons and red dragons, black dragons and crystal dragons, have more than 99% genetic similarity. Otherwise, how can we explain that their dependents, coming and going, can only get a few abilities? In addition to the silver dragon's wind control, water control, and ice breath, the red dragon's fire breath, and the blue dragon's lightning, most of them can get some dragon scales, dragon horns, and strong bodies. These general ability. And according to their tests, all dragon clans have the same chromosome points that give their dependents general abilities. Greed has reason to believe that they are actually the same gene. But speculation is speculation, and proof is proof. Gretel did not tell the researchers these speculations, but only assign the research tasks and let them figure it out on their own. And Gretel, who had waited patiently for a long time, finally got his reward. After nearly a month, when he stepped into the research room today, 3 magicians rushed to report to him. Recently, 12 points were analyzed. We used metal dragons, color dragons, gem dragons, 3 major categories, at least 15 kinds of dragons, samples from the same location for analysis. Through running the rubber, we can initially conclude that they are the same point. After we extract these points, we will send them to the natural school for further testing. They will insert these samples into various organisms, culture them, and observe their characteristics. The results should be available in the next 2 days. Gretel raised his eyebrows. It would be great to have results. If the gel running results are the same and the traits are the same after inserting various organisms, we can basically determine that even if they are different dragon families, most of the chromosomes are the same. With this conclusion, when they carry out targeted enhancement of dragon eggs and hatchlings, they don't need to try to test the chromosomes one by one, they can just enhance them directly. Talk about CAO. CAO arrives. A senior priest from the nature religion held a large stack of records and excitedly knocked on the door of the laboratory. Hey, the results are out? Just as expected. Hey, why is it you, Master Issei Sewer, the eldest disciple of Master Philby and the leader of this laboratory, blurted out and asked. Not Erwin Elder. He glanced at Gretel quickly, sincerely thanked himself for his quick response, and added the title Elder after his name. Elder Erwin is working on the targeted enhancement project, and Elder Erwin is usually in contact with them and has repeated discussions with them. He himself is level 15, and Elder Erwin is only level 12. Although the Elder is Gretel's teacher, even the Enlightenment teacher from the Nature Order is still a teacher. For Gretel's sake, everyone is on an equal footing on a daily basis. It is basic to call each other by name, and there is not much restraint when we get along with each other. If something happens here, just knock on the door and come over. If something happens over there, just knock on the door and come over. Using honorifics or something like that doesn't exist. But in front of Master Nordmark, this is not a good thing. Ah, Elder Erwin has realized something and is in retreat. The visitor smiled with a smile on his face. Elder Irwin was at level 11 when he came to Dragon Island. After several years of intensive research, he quickly advanced to level 12. Now, after completing the previous batch of verifications, he had another important realization. He poked the oak stick into the forest clearing, sat down next to the oak stick, and immediately began to meditate. The oak staff took root, sprouted branches, and grew leaves. In a moment, the dense crown of the tree was like a big umbrella, covering Elder Irwin's head. The branches of the branches drooped, covering him inside and blocking out all interference from the outside world. Looking at this posture, it seems that he is about to advance again. If you can advance from level 12 to level 13, you have crossed a big step and can directly come into contact with the 7-ring magic. The cleansing of the body by the natural breath will also add a lot of life to him. Really? The teacher is in seclusion. Greet's face was full of surprise. He subconsciously took a step towards the door and rushed directly to the elder's retreat. As soon as his footsteps moved, he immediately stopped. I can't help much now and in the past, so it's better to listen to the report quietly and then talk about it. With the accumulation of elders, there won't be any big problems in just advancing. The natural aura is always soft, so even if the advancement fails, there should be no danger. So, what results did he achieve? Elder Irwin presided over the research and inserted the samples sent into level 1, level 2, and level 3 demon frog eggs, demon lizard eggs, pseudo-dragon eggs, chicken eggs, and various bird eggs. Gretel asked, and the natural priest who came to report immediately turned a page in the record book and quickly glanced at the summary at the beginning. As well as in mice, rats, piglets, and puppies. Samples from different dragon clans with the same points show the same traits in the same animals. For example, sample number 1 showed thicker scales on the devil lizards and pseudo-dragons. After the eggs and various bird eggs hatched, the feathers showed signs of scales. Mice and rats showed signs of scaliness. Keratinization. Thank you Nordmark Mage. Thanks to him for getting a large amount of fresh flesh and blood from the dragon clan. With these fresh flesh and blood, they can extract a large number of chromosome samples and conduct experiments one by one on dragon species and one point at a time. Greet listened patiently and quickly read the experiment summary. Well, the idea is clear, the experimental group and control group are clearly set, and the research method is rigorous. So, after the teacher completed these experiments, he gained insights. Not exactly at this point, Pastor Natural, who came to deliver the letter, couldn't help but admire him. The nature priests on Dragon Island all work hard, but even among the entire group, Elder Irwin is one of the hardest working people. Maybe he didn't seize this opportunity until he was old, or maybe he didn't want to embarrass his disciples. In short, Elder Irwin abandoned all rest and entertainment and immersed himself in research work from morning to night, from early morning to late at night. Work, study, grit your teeth to read those difficult books, those papers that you can't understand, and shamelessly go to people for advice. Keep thinking, keep improving research methods, keep looking for possible breakthrough points. Elder Irwin feels that those extraordinary points may be more subdivided. The nature priest who sent the letter looked around and nodded gently to the energy evocation mages in the research room. He sought the help of various archmages and obtained the chromosome fragments that they had dissected and laid in the gel. Then, he injected these fragments, piece by piece, into various samples. A gentle intake of breath. A transcendent point is cracked open with drugs, stimulating them to run forward in the gel, and finally separated into segments, usually between 10 to 30 or 40 segments. The fragment between verifying the extraordinary point and verifying the point means a difference of 10 times, or even a difference of 30 or 40 times in workload. If there are differences in the cleavage process, two different cleavages at the same point may result in completely different fragments. Then, the conclusions made last time may not be referenced at all this time. And Elder Irwin, an old man who is nearly 100 years old, endured such intense work without saying a word. The elders proved that when specific fragments are injected into the sample, the same effect can be obtained. Therefore, the ones that determine those traits can be smaller units. Smaller units, of course. Gretel closed his eyes. In previous lives, various laboratories were studying specific gene fragments, exploring, cutting, pasting, and cultivating them. How to replace part of the adenovirus gene with the spike glycoprotein gene to make a recombinant adenovirus vaccine. How to find special disease-causing genes for cancer-related treatments. It's all about this idea. He knew early on that the point classification method was too rough and could be made more refined. No wonder, with such a discovery, no wonder teachers get a lot of feedback. This advancement is stable. Then what are your thoughts next? The elder has read Archmage Philby's latest paper. The elder hopes that when the microscope is improved, he can use the microscope to observe these fragments. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Giolan 2020. Chapter 1694. So, does inserting a specific fragment improve the energy consumption of casting a spell compared to inserting a specific chromosome point? Gretel asked softly. The natural pastor who came over to report was stunned for a moment, flipped through the report for a while, and answered quickly. Yes. The average saving is about 3%. Elder Irwin speculates that because the spell is based on limited wishing, this cannot be changed for the time being, so the energy saving effect is not obvious. He flipped through 2 more pages, then paused. After reading quickly for a moment, he continued. However, Elder Irwin speculated that when it comes to finding relevant spell configurations, if the chromosome fragments can be located, the efficiency of finding relevant configurations can be greatly improved. In addition, directional enhancement of chromosome spots can also accurately locate chromosome segments. See, this is the power of researchers. Gretel sighed silently. The limited wishing spell cannot be dispensed with. This spell consumes too much energy. However, in a long double helix composed of 30 segments, taking pictures and looking for a specific configuration is definitely more difficult than just one of them. High position. In addition, if a large amount of energy is needed to achieve the transition and transcendence of chromosome parts using concentrated particle flow irradiation, it is obviously unnecessary to think about which one is more economical, upgrading a section of chromosome or upgrading 1/30th section of chromosome. Since the teacher has this conjecture, let's verify it next. Greet nodded and responded slowly, completely ignoring the wandering eyes of the plastic magicians next to him. The magicians in this laboratory, led by the disciples of Archmage Philby, and half of them are magicians from Thunderhorn, always feel awkward listening to Gretel's words. Who is your teacher? Hello. Who is your teacher? But Gretel remained calm and stared straight ahead, pretending not to see their looks. After understanding the trends in the Department of Plasticity, he ran towards the Department of Change. The 12th and 11th floors belong to the Plastic Energy Department, and the 10th to 8th floors are the floors occupied by the Change Department. Recently, many needs are stuck in the change system. How is the development progress of the microscope and electron microscope? How can it be so fast? Mage Nordmark, the Change Department wailed. If other schools of thought are researchers, then the Department of Change, especially the alchemy branch of the Department of Change, is the main producer. Build the Mage Tower, build the accelerator in the Mage Tower, and build various observation equipment, measurement equipment, and reaction equipment. Refining ores, refining animal bones, teeth and horns, refining various materials, testing various properties of unknown materials. Every alchemist wishes he could use 1 minute as 2 minutes. That's it, we still have to keep meeting the various new needs of the Nordmark mage. Create a new batch of alchemy vessels. For cloning. Speed. The first one will be in 3 days. Build a new batch of teleportation arrays. We must be able to teleport to each other in 3 directions, my place, the teacher's place, and Cyrilla's territory. Build a new focusing device. Try it and guide the flow of high-energy particles to accurately hit specific chromosome points. It is best to accurately hit specific atoms. The alchemists were so excited by Gretel that they started to scream and cry. If it weren't for the large amount of high-level materials piled up for practice, everyone felt that they had made progress and improved, and someone would advance every once in a while, everyone would have gone on strike. And if someone advances, it means that someone has to retreat, meditate, and have unconditional priority in occupying the meditation room. They have to put down their work and squat in the meditation room for several days. Then, all his work must be shared among the members of this group. Regardless of whether other people recognize this material or whether it can be processed with such high precision, you have to bite the bullet and do it. With fewer people, there will be no less work and no less output. Help. Greet quickly turned around and made a bunch of suggestions for the development of microscopes. For example, increasing the accelerating voltage of a microscope allows it to project thicker and thicker objects. For example, the electron beam does not pass through the sample, but only focuses the electron beam on a small area of the sample as much as possible, then scans the sample line by line, and observes the secondary electrons excited by the sample nearby. For example, use an extremely thin charged probe to get close to the sample and accurately scan the surface of the sample. Alas, all the methods he had heard of were poured out. As for whether these methods can be realized and what methods should be used to achieve them, it is the result of the joint efforts of alchemists, and perhaps magicians in other fields. He is not sure about the specific steps. I know everything, what do I need from you? Spread your hands. After Greet made the suggestion confidently, he walked away with his head held high, leaving behind a sad look in his eyes. Walking out of the 8th floor where the alchemy area is located, walked into the elevator, suddenly opened the elevator door again, and jumped out. By the way, there's one more thing that I just thought of. You guys, is it possible to develop some fluorescent dyes? The kind that can dye chromosomes. What fluorescence? What kind of fluorescence? The alchemists looked at each other. Greet had already finished speaking. It's best to dye it on one chromosome. Several different colors can appear, and the colors are colorful, forming a strip. As for the way to excite fluorescence, he thought about it carefully, struggled for a while, and finally decided to explain the idea of fluorescent DNA staining in his previous life. Perhaps, you can see it by shining it with ultraviolet light, or some other kind of light, or using detection magic or something like that. This, Mage Nordmark, can you tell me in detail? That's all I thought of. For more specific and more information, you need to keep experimenting. In short, please remember this topic. After saying that, he shouted to open the elevator, jumped in and left. Hey, it's so fun to just pretend and run. It's nice to throw out the hard questions and not have to do the work for me. Gretel happily arrived at the School of Protection. This school of thought is nothing to look at. Their main task is to set up protection for everything in the Mage Tower, including energy pools, including accelerators, including alchemy golems and refining furnaces, to prevent sudden explosions. After walking around in a circle, I slipped down to the Conjuration School and asked a heart-wrenching question right from the start. Among you, who is from the Wave School and who is from the Particle School? With a snap, the magicians in front of them raised their heads and stared at each other, their eyes crackling with sparks. Gretel was a little worried that he could start a fight on the spot. Maybe I shouldn't ask here? Maybe I should ask the leaders of the Conjuration School for a conference room and call them in one by one? Or maybe I should have 2 conference rooms, one at each end of the 6th floor, with signs posted on them, so that the wave school goes to the east end and the particle school goes to the west end. But it's too late to change his tune now. Gretel coughed hard. Everyone from the particle school, please come with me. By the way, I'm talking about the particle school of optical research. Don't you get me wrong. He got a lot of eye rolls. Particle school, when used alone, may have many different directions. However, when used together with the wave school, there must be no ambiguity. Mage Nordmark, you are already a level 17 high-level mage and can already start sprinting for the legend. Why do you need to repeatedly confirm this issue? Gretel was thick-skinned and pretended not to see the white eyes. He walked into a conference room with his head held high, and naturally a high-level mage followed him. The magicians who are qualified to enter this conference room are all level 15 or above. They have made some research results in the particle school and contributed to this building. The kind of people who follow the teacher step by step and ask him why light is a particle and reply that's what our school says are not qualified to step in, or even say that they are from the particle school. Gretel sat down at the end of the long table, and several magicians naturally took their seats along the long side. They say a few, but actually there are only 3 people. Gretel's eyes moved around their faces, especially the face of the magician with the least hair and closest to him. What a sin, this is a woman. In a world where men are generally more likely to go bald than women, she is actually the one with the least hair. Her head is bald, with absolutely nothing left. Maybe I should try to develop a hair regeneration magic, or a hair transplant magic, or, from the limb regeneration technique, I can modify the spell to promote the regeneration of hair follicles. Gretel's thoughts wandered uncontrollably for a moment, then quickly came back. He nodded slightly to the 3 magicians on his right and smiled kindly. The reason why I invite you here is to ask a question. You are all magicians of the particle school. Is there any way to see individual light particles one by one? There was silence in the conference room. The 2 magicians in the lower seats simultaneously set their sights on the extremely smart lady. The female magician was silent for a moment and answered slowly. The particle nature of light is not understood in this way. So it can or it can't. It's not possible so far, however, irradiating metal with light of a certain frequency can excite electrons one by one, which can prove that light is a particle. That's okay too. Gretel's eyes lit up. So, do you have any way to excite electrons by irradiating chromosomes with light of a certain frequency? Or excite other things? I mean, can you find another way to better observe chromosomes? The magicians of the particle school walked out of the office step by step with heavy hearts to fulfill the unreasonable demands of Master Nordmark. After Gretel harassed the conjuration department, he went to the prophecy, illusion, and charm control departments, and then happily rushed to the necromancy department. Lord of Plagues. The Lord of Plague has arrived. Your Excellency, Lord of the Plague, what instructions do you have? Are there any new topics? I'm just saying, is your workload saturated? The cat wiped the range hood and the stove today, the cat used too much force, the cat's right wrist hurts, It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1695. It is impossible to be saturated, and it is impossible to be saturated in this life. The necromancer undertook 2 extremely important tasks. One was to debug dragon eggs, and then introduce the remnant dragon souls brought from the dragon tomb to regenerate the dead dragon as a young dragon. So far, there is still progress on this project. From dragon beasts who were born with no knowledge, to little guys who might have been baby dragons but died in their eggs, to baby dragons who were born extremely weak and died quickly. It can only be said that they are approaching success step by step. However, how long it will take to achieve success is a question that has a long way to go. Maybe we can do it next year, maybe we can do it 10 years from now, maybe we can never do it. Perhaps before they could do it, Gretel had already met the most important needs of the dragons through other methods. So the project team was disbanded and Gretel traveled to other places. The necromancers needed to use other methods to complete their research. It's not the first time Gretel ran away. When he was in the Eagle Country, he built such a large virology research institute, led a group of necromancers to make a vaccine for yellow fever, and then walked away, leaving the research institute to death without a care. Spirit mages. Then, in the elf secret realm and everlasting island, you just leave after finishing the project and throw it away after finishing the project. He can throw the manpower and material resources he has gathered together, the mage tower he built, and the various large-scale instruments and equipment he has built to others. If you can do it in other places, you can do it on Long Island. The Dragon Island project is just relatively large and difficult. Greed has been working on the project for a relatively long time and has been stuck here. When he is done, when he achieves his goal, he will throw it away and leave, and he will never miss it. Besides, the necromancers have heard from various channels that the legendary mages above are already planning to arrange where Gretel will go after the Dragon Island project is completed. It seems that there are 2 or 3 important targets available now. By the way, if the project team is disbanded, it is very likely that the resources Greed has given to the entire Mage Tower and the guarantee for the Dragon Clan will be revoked. So the necromancers race against time. I wish I could go to the nature order every day, hold the lap of the nature priest and cry and beg them, asking them to stimulate the dragon beasts as much as possible, so that they can lay one more egg, and one more egg. I can't wait to measure the dragon soul desperately, divide the dragon soul into the smallest portion allowed by the experiment, and stuff it into the dragon egg one by one. Occasionally my hands trembled and the cut was a little too big, which made me feel distressed for 3 days in a row. If the dragon soul stuffed into the dragon egg turns into a dragon beast, or fails to be cultivated before breaking out of the shell, there is basically nothing to come back. If you are lucky enough to be sane but die soon, the trained dragon soul will seem to have grown a little bit stronger. However, the toughness and essential strength of the dragon soul are much weaker, and there is no way to stuff it into a dragon egg for secondary cultivation. That's it? Gretel pondered, and finally sighed. A group of necromancers looked at him eagerly, waiting for his instructions, waiting for his guidance. However, projects related to the soul and reincarnation are not his specialty, and he can't say anything. You continue your research, he could only say this in the end. If Your Excellency the Immortal or any other high-level necromancer is willing to give you some advice, you can try your best to ask for advice. If you need any resources that you can't get yourself, you can also apply. I will try my best to coordinate based on your achievements. Try to coordinate as much as possible, which means there is no guarantee that there will be one. There may be many results, maybe there may be few results, there is a high probability that there are none. This wave of necromancers ran away crying. The second wave of necromancers surged around. Mage Nordmark, look at us, there are many difficulties in the cloning technique, we need to increase our investment. This group is trying to clone the dragon. In name, of course, they are preparing a physical body for the dragon. If anyone dies, they can instantly return to the cloned body and resurrect. But in fact, until now, they have not even passed the first level, which is to make an alchemy vessel large enough. Why don't you start with something simpler? Gretel frowned. For example, try cloning a baby dragon first. A baby dragon? I can still do it by getting some body tissue of the baby dragon. Waste. High-minded but low-handed. So ambitious. Look at Anivia, they have changed the cloning alchemy warehouse into a rapid embryo culture warehouse, and the results have already been achieved. The headquarters here in Black Crow Swamp is still stuck on the first small target of the big target. Hurry up and make results, Gretel threatened them. Otherwise, I will cut off resources and research projects. In the final analysis, your project is to serve big projects. If you are left behind by big projects, you will find a way to get the needed resources and manpower yourself. There was a cry. Not only the necromancer, but also the zombies and ghouls nearby were shouting at the top of their lungs, the ghosts were howling miserably, and the banshees were wailing gracefully. Naturally, the lethality is filtered. No one can take advantage of the banshee's wail spell. In the laboratory, the largest number of skeletons tap their upper teeth together with their lower teeth, making a large click-click sound. But Gretel was stone-hearted and completely unmoved. The spell of cloning a dragon is too expensive. There is only a small amount of investment in the Mage Tower. It was all obtained from the dragon clan with great pains and hard work. You must not let you spend it randomly. He ignored the screams from Black Crow Swamp, swaggered out of the basement of the Mage Tower with his hands behind his back. It's enough to master the main progress. As for some minor projects, such as the testing of materials brought from Dragon Tomb that obviously have necromantic properties. For example, the comparative study of various dragon souls, especially the comparative study of legendary dragon souls and ordinary dragon souls. For example, use dragon chromosome points to join various undead creatures, especially the fleshy undead creatures such as ghouls and zombies. These were all minor issues, and they were considered as Black Crow Swamp's resources to exploit the Mage Tower. He could just turn a blind eye and be done with it. The current task is to go to the Nature Religion group to see if the teacher's advancement is going smoothly. Gretel stepped out of the Mage Tower and immediately launched a series of short-distance teleportation spells. After a few dodgers, he arrived in the woods where the Nature Order was located. From a distance, I can feel the fluctuation of natural power. The whole forest is surging with wind and the branches and leaves are swaying. Almost all the nature priests stopped what they were doing and stood in a circle outside, looking from a distance. Where's the teacher? In the clearing in the forest, there is an oak tree on the left and an oak tree on the right. The same trees are straight and towering, the tree crowns are drooping, and they are breathing the air of nature. Why didn't anyone tell me that this advancement is double? Thanks to @bookfriend 202208011034598847, @bookfriend 202307060035203225 for the reward of 100 starting coins.